YouTube chat is delayed sometimes, but not always. Interesting. Alright. Okay, I think I need to turn this to do not disturb. No notifications. Alright. Alright, let's go. Hello. Should I turn my light on? Am I too dark? Let's light off. Light on. Light off. Light on. Also change. Messes with my green screen a little bit. I'm gonna go light off, then I don't have a bright ass light in my eyes up here, which is nice too. Especially because up that way, where my light is also where my VS Code is. Right, I wanted to fix this. It's going to annoy me. Let's see if I can figure that out real quick. Am I just off center? Do I need to like... move the whole camera? Yeah, it does, because that's... I just want the frame, you fool. Come on. Okay, well that's annoying. Yeah, because that just moves the whole thing. Alright, well, I'll ignore it for now. As best I can, anyways. Alright, anyways, let's see what we're doing today. I'm gonna be up a while, so I'll be streaming for a while today because I was basically up all night last night. I had like taken a nap yesterday. What was it? Wednesday, I guess it was. Yeah. No, Thursday? Thursday. It was today. Okay, it's technically Friday for me now because it's after midnight, so it was Thursday. So yeah, Wednesday night, or Wednesday I had taken a nap, and it ended up being longer than it was planned to be. So I ended up staying up basically all night and working on stuff last night. And then at about 9 a.m., I was like, alright, I'm going to take a 2-hour nap. slept through my alarm. I ended up sleeping like 7 hours. So I got like a full night's sleep in the middle of the day. So I'm gonna try to push it the other way. I'm gonna stay up tonight, be awake for most of the day tomorrow, and then probably go to bed early. So no stream tomorrow, probably at all. But also I was trying to stream last night and my internet was not having it, so here we are. I'm also having an energy drink to really keep me going anyways. With the green koozie, so it's got a little... What's up, Eternal Lord? Welcome. Alright, let's do things. So, yeah, last night I was working on trying to fix... Oh, I see, yeah. I'm an affiliate now. I don't know if you can hear me or not. I know you're saying there's ads. It looks like the ad is still going according to my little green box up there. But okay. So yeah, I gotta work on an update for this Sunday for our Brain Rot RNG game. And then also work on some bug fixes, because we have this situation. So these guys, so I'm newer to the project, but they had created a game pass for infinite storage to be able to infinitely store any number of characters infinitely. It's actually set to 1,000,000, so even then it wasn't technically infinite storage. There's no description or anything that says that, so it was a little iffy from the get-go. But what's happening is and like 500 people bought that, right? 500 some odd amount of people bought that game pass. And what's happened is there's a few of them that have now run into the issue that their data store entry is larger than the 4 megabyte limit for data store entries. So rather than them playing and getting like 1,000 more rolls, when they leave and they come back, they've lost everything that they did in their previous session because it's not able to actually save their data because their data is too big. So very touchy subject, but we basically have let them know you're gonna have to like work down the amount of characters that you have. I have to create some sort of like a better selling system, because apparently the system they have right now is you can do multi-sell, where you can select multiple characters and then click sell, but apparently it sells them like one at a time, which has like a 1 second delay between each of them. So, you know, they have that, because we can store over 24,000 characters plus the rest of the player's data. But like 24,000 is essentially like the hard cap. We want to lower that down to an even more safe number so we can leave room for additional data in the future if we need to. But of course these guys have like 25,000 characters. Do I know what brain rot is? Kinda. In my day it was just casual games for the most part, right? I don't know. It's funny because I had never even come across the RNG game genre before, because I'm still relatively new to Roblox game development in particular. Relatively, I mean, it's been like 2.5 years, a little more than 2.5 years now. But they were telling me, oh yeah, RNG this, RNG that, and I'm thinking, of course, random number generator. And you know, my coding brain is thinking more specifically about that. So it was interesting to get into it, and it's a fun game. It's definitely addicting. I can see that, you know, why it is generating money and hype and everything. But yeah, so I'm of two mindsets with coding. So I teach coding as well. I've actually been a computer science teacher for high school, and to me, I think everybody should learn some computer science and learn some coding, even if you never actually use coding beyond that. And that's because it does teach you computational thinking, which is very important. Especially these days, many people do not have critical thinking skills and the ability to think through problems in a computational way, which can be really, really helpful. The fact is like and I've had previous students like reach out to me after I left, and they're like, yeah, this is my new computer science teacher's terrible and this and that. And I've had people tell me, even on, you know, through my YouTube videos and on here, they're like, the computer science teacher I have is terrible. They essentially just kind of read through a plan, and then it's not engaging in any way and that kind of stuff. So it really, in my opinion, does come down to who's teaching you or how you're learning it, because there's a way to teach coding. I've gotten most of the students that I've gotten into coding, like they enjoy it, even again if they're not going to use it, you know, after the class or anything. So it really can just kind of become a useful tool of how you get taught, right? Can really determine a lot of times too if people hate coding and tolerate it or even actually enjoy it. What's up, Car? Welcome. You hate binary? Ah, binary is so fun to me. Like it's one of my favorite things to teach, actually. I find it so fascinating when you're like, yeah, a computer technically it knows ones and zeros, right? It knows on and off. It has transistors that either allow electricity or don't allow electricity. Even though when they're off, they still technically allow a tiny bit of electricity. But it's really interesting to me to go, okay, so how do you represent, you know, higher numbers than 0 and 1 with binary? How do you so you can break it down pretty easily, right? Each place has its own place, right? You have your 2's place, your 4's place, and your 8's place in this case. So you have 8 and 2, which is technically not correct because it's obviously 0 and 1. So that's obviously 1, and then here, let me break it down somewhere. Yeah, we'll do this. We'll just do binary. No, I'll just make this a text file. All right, so up here we got binary. That's the wrong way. I'll go this way. I'll shrink that down. So, we as human beings do decimal, right? The decimal system. So, decimal, right? Deca meaning 10, and that's because we count from 0 to 9. Right? So that's 10 numbers, 10 digits. So what happens when you actually get, you know, if you count up from 0 to 9, what happens when you want to count 10? Right? Because you're at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. When you count to 10, you basically reset the 9 to 0 and you add a 1 in front. It's exactly the same in binary, right? Because bi means 2, right? So you have 0 and you have 1. You want to count to 2, you reset that to 0 and you add another digit in front. You say 1. So 1, 0 in binary is the number 2, right? And then you go, okay, now that's 3. And then you have to reset all of them to 0 and add a 1 in front, right? And so forth and so on. So that's 4, and 5, and so on. So binary to me is kind of interesting. Once you get like the basic understanding of that, again, then you go, okay, well, so how do you actually represent different, you know, different things? Like, how do you represent letters and stuff like that? Yeah, nobody codes in binary. Nobody's ever really coded in binary when it really comes down to it. I mean, even the original coders, right? They had little punch sheets and stuff that they would code in, which I guess is technically binary, but you know, really early on, it became assembly language where it's the closest that you get to directly controlling the hardware of the computer, and assembly is a big pain in the ass to code in. But you have obviously all these other coding languages, and all of these things are just abstracting what the computer language is, right? To make it easier and closer to writing English to tell the computer what to do. Your computer science teacher is teaching you how you can use binary to solve locks. That's kind of cool. I like talking about how you can display images, right? Like how binary is still used to display images or create sounds, just in the fact that it just depends on the context, right? Your computer knows, hey, I have this application open. If I have a Word document open, I know that, you know, my binary is creating letters and, you know, characters, strings, that sort of thing. Whereas if you have like some sort of audio software open, then you know that binary is creating like tones and volumes and you know, different sounds. And then you have you know, like image software like Photoshop, where it's generating, you know, colors of a pixel, RGB colors in a pixel, and sort of that sort of stuff. So I find binary pretty cool. But you can use an array like 111001. Yeah, I mean, it really just, that's why bytes are so useful. You know, it just turns out from having from 0 to 255, essentially 256 digits, there's a lot of use in a byte that you can do. And obviously when you start looking at memory and how it's essentially all divisible by bytes, that becomes a big part of it too. Yeah, so encryption, I'm not huge into it. I wrote a, let's see if I can find it. I don't even know if I have it still, probably, but, yeah, I don't know where it would be. I haven't touched things in a while, so, I wrote some stuff in, I think it was in Go. Could have been in Rust. Pretty sure it was in Go though. It's essentially just my own like encryption software to encrypt drives and encrypt my passwords and that kind of stuff. Basically, I had my own little password generator at one point too, but have I used it? Not in probably a year now. So. All right, anyways, let's get into what we're doing today. So so I need to add rewards for our weekly leaderboard. I need to actually clear some things up. I do know Python, so I started with C and C++. I started with C. That was my primary language when I actually learned to program 20 some years ago. And then I got into C++, which is just C plus classes, which I think C++, if you look at like the amount of time I have been coding, C++ is probably still the longest amount of time I've spent in a coding language is C++. Mostly because I was an Unreal Engine developer for a while, so I used C++ for that as well. And then Python, yeah, so I mean, Python was what I taught in high school as kind of the primary first language as well, because before I had really, like, yeah, C++ is not a beginner language in my opinion. Your beginner languages are Java, Python, Lua, or Luau, actually. If I were to go back and teach again, I would probably teach Luau, Roblox Luau. Because it's a simple language to learn. And the fact is, when you're teaching programming, you really just need to teach a programming language that has good, like, immediate feedback, because that really helps, right? Roblox game engine, obviously you can code in it and then it works, right? You can see what it does immediately, which is nice. With Python, like, I started out teaching with Gracie the Turtle, right? Just because it gives you some immediate feedback on what you're actually doing, and you're kind of tricking people into learning these fundamentals of coding, which end up basically instilling an understanding that all of a sudden when you go, okay, let's take a look at C now, right? And you show, okay, so here's, here's how we write a for loop in C, and then it's like, oh, it's the same thing, it's just written different, right? Yeah, the syntax is the only difference between languages when it really comes down to it. Obviously, there's certain structures that exist in different languages that can be different or in addition or whatever, some languages have things that other languages don't. Other languages do things slightly different, but overall, like, if you know how to do a for loop and a while loop, if you know your conditionals and your functions and all that kind of stuff, you basically just do it. Someone should make a Google Translate for code and tell if you can translate it. Just use an LLM. They can do that. In fact, that's one of their main strengths, I would say, is if you say, hey, here's this program, here's this application written in C++, can you translate it into Rust or into Go, right? Or here's this program I wrote in Python, can you actually convert it into TypeScript, right? Or something along those lines. It's good for that kind of thing. You still really want to have some grasp of programming and of those languages so that you can at least look and see, hey, is this, correct? Is there anything that's going to break in here? Your game designer, basic C#. Boolean is important. Yeah, I mean, Boolean is your base level data type because it's true or false, on or off, yes or no, 0 or 1, right? That's a Boolean. Oh, computer science. Basic computer science, yeah. Yeah, as a game designer, I highly recommend that people always learn some form of vector math as well. When you understand vector math, it really unlocks the ability to do a lot with games. Even just determining, like, direction and magnitude and just positional space and stuff. You're a nerd at vector math. I'm not as much of a nerd as I probably should be on it, but do enjoy it though. I think I just randomly had a video on my YouTube feed of this girl that was going over vector math. I think she was using Unity to kind of demonstrate it, but she was also doing like drawings on Excalidraw or whatever online writing app that she was using, drawing app. And I just sat there and it was like a 3-hour long thing, and I just sat there and watched it because I also am kind of a nerd when it comes to it. It's been a while since I've taught vector math though. I know it when I need to, essentially. Did that just pop something in there? Am I seeing things? Anyways, alright, so I need to implement these weekly leaderboard rewards, which I think I did the data structure on it last night. Weekly rewards, yeah. Check that out there. Alright, so, which I'm not really sure, like, what. You're getting 10 ethereal crate packs, but then you're also getting 3 ethereal crate packs. Like, are they supposed to be different crates? I think right now the game only has one crate. I don't even know necessarily what are in crates per se, but I'm still new to the project and told them I need to like get into how this is written, what this game actually is, like the details of it, so I can help along things. I spent most of last night trying to rewrite their data script, their data store wrapper essentially, because it's doing too much. Their data manager is also doing a little too much the way that they have it set up. And it became this whole thing of like, I tried to clean it up, but there's so much tight coupling in their game that I got to a point where I was like, man, I think I'm just gonna give up. And I spent like 5 hours on it, on both scripts there, and the data store wrapper. And this is actually the data manager that I ended up having finished. I need to clean things up, in fact, because I also noticed that I actually thought I was in a different branch when I had started working on that. And then it wasn't until after like I gave up on it and was like, all right, yeah, I'll just switch back to the master branch and then create a branch for this new weekly rewards, that I looked down and realized I'd been doing it in the master branch the whole time, which is really upsetting and unlike me and kind of pissed me off. But it's okay, because I also realized like I'm in this project called Commission, because this originally started as a commission just to do their leaderboards before they got me into partial ownership on it. So your favorite is making shaders and using textures as mask. Basically black is 0, white is 1, rotate them around, animate and make VFX. See, I never really got into all of the shaders and materials stuff. There's a guy that I watch that's making a game in Unreal Engine. The game is Prismatica, and it's like Prismatica Dev, I think. Let's see if we can find him here. Give him a little shout out, because he's like really gotten deep into like developing materials and shaders and stuff in Unreal Engine anyways. Yeah, Prismatica Dev. So this guy goes really hard like into a lot of this stuff for Unreal Engine, of course, but like it's still like he goes into like the details of like how he's doing them. He does a lot of live streams as well. Really good. Gotta check out, subscribe to if you're into that sort of thing. I never really got into it as much as I probably would have liked to, because I know you can do a lot of really cool stuff with it, but that is what it is. Leave this where there is leave this where is there comments. Oh. Yeah, so I mean there's no comments really in the original one. And in my version there's some comments, but for the most part, like, you don't really need as many comments the way that I set mine up, because a lot of it's just set up better. The migrate data thing, like I'm still not even 100% I mean, I get like why. The fact is we're using Profile Store, and Profile Store has the reconcile method to, as it says there, fill in all the missing or new variables. But they created this migrate data function that basically uses their migration module to do something similar, but I guess in a different or safer way. I don't know. I haven't really looked too into it, but you know. Selling assets and VFX for Godot to try to buy a Substance Painter. It'd get too expensive like other weirdos. That's fine if you promote. That's fine. I have no problem with that. Yeah, it's... So Godot is actually another engine that I'm a big fan of. Not for designing or developing games in, for writing non-game software, actually. Turns out it's very good at that. Game engines are actually really good at non-game software, as a matter of fact. Do I want any models? I don't currently have a need for any. In fact, I've got a massive amount of assets myself that I've collected over, I don't know, the past 10 years or whatever. There's like two main portions of game design that I'm not as enthusiastic about doing. I used to actually be much more enthusiastic about doing modeling. I'd used ZBrush for quite a while. Like, I loved ZBrush. I kind of got away from that side of things. I do the 2D, I still do a lot of 2D art. I'll draw for concept art, and then because I might whack and tail a little here, and then I'll also do a lot of vector art for UI and stuff. Like, I like doing UI work. But then, or even like some of the hand-painted kind of icons and stuff like that. It's a 2D mostly on that side of things. Gotten away from the 3D modeling aspect. But then also animations. Like, again, just like modeling, like I can do it. I know how to do it. I just find animations so tedious. I know that there's a lot of software that makes it a lot less tedious. Better interpolation between different frames and things like that, but it's still something like for 3D assets and animation. Those are like the two things that if I'm making a game, I'm gonna outsource those. I can pretty much do everything else to a point that, like, to toot my own horn, I feel like I'm better at UI than most people. Like, I would consider myself a really good UI designer. I've done a lot of studies on it and stuff, as well as having developed software, not game software necessarily, but having developed software for the past few years has really helped me understand a little more of the non-gamer mindset user experience, which has helped my game UI mindset as well. Use Blender, don't like how their animation's frame-based. Yeah, it's funny because again, when I was developing with Unreal Engine, like, I think Unreal Engine's new control rig animation's actually really good. I think Unreal Engine just in general has been doing a really good job of making it so you don't have to even use Blender for a lot of stuff. I think if they continue pushing that, it'll be kind of nice to just have that one tool to do it all in there. But my problem with Blender has always been that they just, like, they seem to purposely go against the grain for their controls. It's like every other piece of 3D software has pretty much the same control scheme, and then there's Blender, and it's just so annoying. Anyways, let's get into what I'm doing here. So I need to set up now how to, you know what, I think I need to actually just wait and go through and clean things up, because I did mess things up last night by doing everything on the master branch, including this, as a matter of fact. But so we're gonna set up a new repo, essentially. I also appear to have an update VS Code, so we'll do that as well. Speaking of updates, what is new in Studio here? Inexperience auto setup. What is this? Let's take a look at the news while we're currently not restarting VS Code. I just click to restart to update it, and that's not doing anything. We're excited to announce a significant leap forward in avatar creation and Roblox in-experience auto setup. This new feature brings the power of your avatar auto setup pipeline, previously only available in Studio, directly to your experiences. Users can create fully rigged, skinned, and caged avatars from arbitrary models. So is this just useful for, like, character creation? Like implementing an in-game character creator a little easier? It's kind of what it looks like. Avatar creation service. Sample Roblox experience. We have a demo experience. It shows how these APIs all work together. The place is uncopy locked, so you can edit, copy, blah, blah, blah. What's up, Evolution? When you make games, do you use Moon Animator for the animation? If so, when do you do it? Does someone else in your team do it? Yeah, so in, I would say the main project that I'm actually part of, Project 100, I do use Moon Animator for that pretty often, but it's more like my animations are typically like developer animations, if you will. Like they're not meant for production. I'll just do something to have some sort of animation to test while I'm testing some sort of feature or something. Right, if there's no animation already made for it. And then we have somebody that will go and animate, like create the actual animations for us for those sorts of things. Moon Animator is like a Roblox plugin you use to make custom animations for your game or something. Yeah. I use Moon Animator. Actually don't know if I have. I think my Moon Animator broke because I had a. I had like an older version and then it updated and it didn't update mine. Like I had bought like a perpetual one or whatever and now they're on something else. I don't remember what it was, but I do know that like mine broke, so it is what it is. Yeah, Moon Animator is just a plugin in here. It's a much better animation system than the animation editor that's built into Roblox. It's still not as good as importing something from Blender, but it's kind of like how I said, Unreal Engine is doing something similar, right? They'll have their own animator in there, which is nice. What else do they do? Blocked words, enhanced moderation for safer communities, gains and experience chat. Save place async now supports all places. Just save place async. Share updates of your save place async endpoint. Okay, I was gonna say, is there no documentation on this? Saves the current state of the place. Keep in mind the following guidelines. Restrictions method only works for places that are created with asset service create place async, or if you have an API enabled. So this is for creating instances, by the look of it. Clones a place through the given template place ID and returns place ID of the new place, which you can use with teleport service clone place. Displays within inventory the place's creator, blah blah blah. Yeah, so this is literally for creating instances. Not instances in the way of that Roblox calls them, but like actual instance stuff. Like instanced dungeons, basically where you can have specific people go. You do like reserved servers and stuff like that for teleports. Straight in Blender Evolution. Yeah, I mean that's why I put both chats up there so you guys can do that. I also noticed that I clearly have, thanks for the follow by the way, clearly have a viewer in YouTube, but it's not displaying on the counter down here. I was trying to find a way, I finally found a way to get me like my activity feed that has both Twitch and YouTube on it, so I can see when somebody follows or subscribes and I miss it like in the actual screen, the pop up and stuff. I can look and see who did stuff. But I also tried to find a way to get my viewer count, and that's apparently not connected. So I might have to look into that as well. Otherwise, like, I can come here and I can view it, my analytics. Clearly there's one. Stupid. Also, this. Yeah, okay. Stupid. Always stay low. Alright, what else we got here? I might consider purchasing it. Yeah, Moon Animator is good. I recommend it if you want to do animation in Roblox. It's definitely a step up, a major step up from the Roblox animator. Yeah, the YouTube delay, right? The chat delay is interesting to me. I was testing it earlier, before I got on stream, or before I'd actually like really started. And like one of my chats would take a few seconds to show up, and then like the next chat I put in there was like immediate, and then like the chat right after that would take like 2 seconds. I have no idea what's going on with it. It's only YouTube. Twitch does fine. I've checked. I don't have any delays set for YouTube, so I don't know, man. I don't know. YouTube be YouTubing, I guess. What else we got here? Docs update, enhanced search and navigation. Curious about that because I use that all the time. What have you updated? Focus on refining the docs site search functionality to ensure that you can pinpoint exactly what you're looking for with these. I heard ask about finding API reference pages when searching for the exact or near exact name. Yeah, that's something that always pissed me off, is you would do a search for like a specific library and like it would be 3 different results down. It's like, why are you not just showing me what I'm actually looking for? I put it in there very specifically, so. Alright, anyways, let's, we got updates here, which I need to, right, because it's a new month. Wait, this is, wow, this is a late update. The 9th? They usually come out with these like right away. What's new? Copilot, blah, blah, blah. Editor experience, Copilot, scroll editor, a middle click. Ooh. Ooh, that's broken though. So that's cool. Yeah, that's bugged, guys. A little buggy. Yeah, so otherwise there's nothing really good there. And yeah, so I have to restart my what is it? Reload, CSS, JS. There I am. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So, all right, I need to essentially create a new repo for this. So let's do that. Roblox, what is this? Rain rot. Yeah, cool, Eternal. We'll talk later. I'm actually going to be on a lot for tonight because I got a messed up sleep schedule. So So, probably won't be streaming tomorrow. In fact, it'll be Friday. I have a thing to do on Friday, so. But I stream pretty frequently though, so we'll see. The egg hunt controversy. Teddy Eye in the condo game found in the game. No. I have no idea. Copy this over. It's the same one. That is not correct. Open this up and do it manually, I suppose. Let's see, Roblox project. Yeah, you've messed things up. I just need these into here. Actually, I'm gonna get the get ignore as well. I mean, you can't really see what I'm doing, but that's okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna reset some things here. These can all stay. Get the cutscene system stuff. This and this. I do need the crate system. Actually, so what I'm gonna need to do is open up the actual live game. Let's see. Dude, it's horrible. Trust me, if you ask someone that knows what Roblox is, they will definitely tell you the egg hunt thing. Okay, let's see. We got replicated storage modules and proof check. API. Let's make sure that that's the same. Also the crate system. Ooh, this actually has thing in it. Let me verify that that was working. Was not. Well, so I also need to. Why did they do that? This is gonna be a little boring as I set this up here. No, I need to name it this. Wait, what am I doing? That's incorrect. I only needed that. Alright, and then I need to copy this and paste this in. What silences that? Okay, shadowed. Interesting. Create info is nil, and then you're setting create info to this if its name equals name, but then you're just immediately setting it to a clone of itself. So you should be able to just do this. That's no. Alright, so that's fine. Let me also verify that this is. Let me close tabs real quick here. Is anything different? No. Okay, so this works. Do that. What's going on here? But create and rename unknown could be nil. What are you saying? Create info. Is it because we're setting it as a nil here? Just curious if we set this as a create. Yeah, that silences that, so we'll do that over here then. That's good now. In fact, let's go back to that Ocean Shop shared API. Looks like we do have an issue in here as well. This is unused, so that's pretty much it for that. So let's go do that over here. More over here. operator divide not be applied to operands of type nil and numbers. Index is nil here. Max potion count is of course a number. The index is definitely a number for that. Right? It's because of this. Because it should be a table of potions. We don't really need to do eye pairs either. Let me actually edit that in. Close this so we can see a little bit better. Alright, so our right here. Go ahead and get rid of the eye pairs because it will infer that for us. This is a table of potion. That's not even the thing I was looking at. The potion info by name. That's that. Like so, and that should mean that index is a number. Yes, yes, very good. And the info is a potion. So we can actually state that this is going to return a tuple with a potion type and a number. So now hovering over this, we have number, potion type, perfect. So when we're here, this would be a number, very good. Copy that over to the main game. Type nil cannot be converted into number. Oh, oh, I got that backwards. Just kidding. All right. There we go. That is now error free. Alright, so I guess we'll copy this over to here now. Okay, so that's done. That's fine. Close these. Let's pop this back out. Music systems for the cutscene system stuff. We can ignore the rest of that. So replicated storage is cleaned up. We have profile store there. Our modules here. This is where things get a little different. I think I'm okay. No, because I did this, and I think I did that here. Let's go ahead and shrink those. Crafting API. Sorry. Modules crafting. Yeah, okay, we did that. And I assume we're actually, yes, okay. So that should be fine, so we can keep that the way we have it. What else do we have over here? Create system, create handler. Yep, that one's updated as well. So keep that the way it is. Index system, index handler. Also updated, so we'll leave that. Okay, our leaderboards, that's the main thing. Morphing, the morph handler. I don't know if we did anything with that one. How did I find about using VS Code for Roblox? I feel like autocomplete and code suggestions are lacking even if I use Lua language server extension. So yeah, use Roblox LSP and you have better auto completion in my opinion. For the plugin there. I use Luau language server specifically so I can use their type checking though, because then it's better type checking. Energy drink is almost gone. So I mean, I come from outside the Roblox world, and I've used Visual Studio, like full Visual Studio for doing Unreal Engine development, but I've used VS Code for pretty much everything else. So Python, Go, Rust for a little bit, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript, GD script, in fact, because there's a plugin for that as well. Which I think I have disabled right now. Yeah, my Godot tools and stuff. And so yeah, so when I got into doing it, I was using Studio for a while, and I was like, man, I wish I could, do this in VS Code. And I looked up and I found out, oh, there's Rojo and there's the language server stuff and all that kind of stuff. So, so that's how I got into actually using that over VS Code or over the Studio. But, wait, I'm in the wrong thing. I've been looking at this all wrong. Alright, I need to go back through things. Okay, let's, so the crafting handler, did I actually do? I mean, the Rojo workflow is literally just turn it on, connect in Roblox Studio, write your code in VS Code, and then just do everything else basically in Studio. Because I'll typically make type aliases for like GUI elements and stuff when I'm doing UI. So I have like all my auto completion set up there, and as long as you're using types properly, like you have pretty good auto completion with that regardless. Roblox LSP does have type checking. You just have to, instead of doing strict mode, you have to do it might actually be this, and then in fact I can look up, I can see because I'm using it, other words. Yeah, so it's and then you do type check mode, then you can say strict. And this will enable strict mode with Roblox LSP, but it hasn't been updated in like 2 years. It was a beta feature that somebody was working on the side for it, open source wise, but they gave up on it and stopped working on it. It works for most things, but even Roblox is doing a new type checker here at some point soon. They've talked about it a few times, so we'll see if it's good there. It is useful for big products, but it's even small products, honestly, or projects. Like I use version control. I like when I'm developing a feature, I like making a new branch and developing the feature out, which is why I'm cleaning things up right now, because last night I was up all night and I stupidly did everything in the master branch. But it was also, I've been working in a incorrectly named project anyways, so I'm just cleaning things up. Also gave up on what I was doing last night because I got to a point that I realized that their game was so, it had way too much tight coupling in it, and it was just like a major pain in the ass to do it. So how long did it take me to get used to using Visual Studio for Roblox? I mean, there is no getting used to it. You just type code the same way. Like I said, once you have it set up, all you have to do is hit the play button down here to serve the file. And then you come over here and you just click connect. And then you just write your code in this screen. It automatically populates in Roblox Studio. The only things I really had to get used to was making sure that I'm including these meta files to ignore unknown instances. So if I'm working in someone else's project, like I'm working in a project that's been existing, right, but they're not using Rojo, like they don't use VS Code or anything for that. So I just have to make sure that anything that I use that exists already in their Explorer, that I'm including that ignore unknown instances in there so that I'm not overwriting anything, or if they add anything new, that when I do connect into it, that it's not going to overwrite anything. You know, just keeps it nice and clean. As far as like you can see, like my setup is actually including like the actual services, not the default Rojo stuff. So, and you know, I have like my Selene all set up. I've also got a Stylua specific here to sort my requires. Like setting that stuff up, I did it once, including my project.json. I do that once, and then I just copy that over to a new project. So it takes me, what, 2 to 3 minutes to actually, I mean, I just did this one on stream actually, so that this takes me a couple minutes to set up at most, and then I'm ready to go. And then it's, like I said, it's just a matter of, you just code in here just like you would in Studio, but you have, honestly, better IntelliSense. In some cases, more, well, I don't know, type checking is kind of mixed between the two, because sometimes I'll get things in VS Code that type check better than Studio, and sometimes I get things in Studio that type check better. Their type checking system's off anyways. Like I said, they're working on a new system for that, so that kind of worked. But and the main thing, you know, I mean, you just have, it's easier. I mean, it's got things that you have to get plugins for in Studio to get to work the same way, like the auto import kind of stuff. You know, like if I want to grab my try get player profile, right? If I didn't have server script service and I don't have my try get player profile module, it'll automatically do the require, automatically get the game get service, server script service for it and everything, right? And again, you can get plugins for that in Roblox Studio, but why? It's already built in here, right? How would you handle adding different objects like sound into folders of set up in VS? No issues. Don't. Keep VS Code to code only. Don't put any objects in there whatsoever. What you would do if you, for example, in this morphing folder, if you want to store non-script things inside of this morphing folder alongside your actual script, just include an ignore unknown instances meta file here, and then you can put whatever you want in that folder. If you're doing it in your services at the service level, obviously you can put that in your default project JSON here, and that will ensure that anything that's in these services that isn't in my VS Code will not overwrite or delete or remove them at all. So that's probably the most handy tool for it. But otherwise, like if you're, you know, like my events, right? I have this bindable event that I added. I know where it's at. I just go ahead and get it. Yeah, I don't get necessarily the auto completion per se. Oh no. I can type well enough. Usually I don't need to. And then I just, you know, declare what type it is so that I do get when I go to use this, you know, because obviously it's not in the directory tree over here, so it wouldn't know that it's a bindable event. So I just tell it it's a bindable event. So then when I call, you know, the unequip bindable, I have like all the stuff that you get from a bindable event, like fire or dot event, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. So didn't know about that. Yeah, it's because that's part of the, if I look up here, yeah, that's part of the Rojo docs. On the sync details here, they got the meta files. So this was something that they added in 0.5. So they've had it for quite a while, but They even talk about like just, you know, adding this ignoring on instances here. You can obviously name it. Obviously, just like with other Rojo stuff, if you name it init, init, then it basically takes the name of its parent. So, you know, when we're looking at init.meta.json here, this is technically morphing.meta.json, right? Because I don't care about putting it in an object or an instance because I'm not creating instances for this. I'm literally only creating code. I'm creating scripts and that's it. So I just basically just put these in the folders and they're good to go. You're supposed to mention in the video I went to help you set up VS Code for the first time. So I have a video that it's like an hour long and goes into more of an explanation for using Rojo, but it is also missing some of the more grainy details of doing this. I do go over setting this up properly so that you have the actual services themselves instead of having to do like a shared folder or, you know, server folder within those sorts of things. Also, typically, like what I'll end up doing is in my own projects is I will actually create a source folder, and that will just create that will just hold all my scripts. Because by doing that, I can guarantee, right, I don't have to include this, and I just make sure that those source folders are literally just code, whereas I can include assets and other things, right? Like they even at least kind of, you know, like they have an assets folder, but like you should ideally have like an assets folder and then like a source folder for your source code and so forth. But where they're doing things like is it in the crafting crates? Where was it? Literally just saw this. It was probably in replicated storage. Or no, it was the morphing. That's exactly what we're looking at. Right, so they have no, it wasn't. So it wasn't replicated storage. Crate system? Here we are. Like the crate system, they have this random decal parented to the crates system API. Like, why? You know, why not put that in the assets? You also have a crate system folder here in the assets. So there's inconsistencies in this game that I eventually would like to go through and do stuff with. It is what it is. For the most part, though, I use VS Code because of the source control, because the version control is just way better. And everybody tells me, they're like, oh, that's only useful for teams. No, it's more useful for teams. It's very useful for individual people, too. It's called Brain Rot RNG. It is a Brain Rot game and an RNG game. Alright, so I do need to go through these again, though. It's the crafting handler. I don't think that I ended up... Yeah, so I did not break that one out. In other words, well, did I... Now I need to make sure that the... It's annoying. Because the crate system API has that, which I think I already counted for. Yeah. So I think in here, I'm just going to get rid of everything that's not the leaderboards. I actually shift delete and just permanently delete them and skip my... So we'll get rid of those two. Skip my recycling bin. So unfortunately in this game, because this was an existing project that didn't use Rojo and they didn't have it properly set up to separate things. Like I can actually show you, so this is project 100. I can go into like the source folder here and you can see, so right, everything is the service /source, because all of this is all just scripts. There is no, everything in the source folder is only scripts. Yeah, well, scripts, module scripts, local scripts. There's no assets in these whatsoever, or at least there's not supposed to be. We've had some other developers get hired on it. They want to put stuff in there, and I have to tell them don't do that. Because then we would have like an assets folder outside here in Roblox Studio itself, or in Roblox, that ends up holding the non-script stuff, right? Any actual assets. Or in like our replicated storage, you might have a remotes folder, right? That sort of thing. So that makes sure that there is no chance of accidentally deleting an asset when you sync up with Rojo, because you're just syncing up the scripts themselves. So I only have my project JSON file here with the unknown instances, unknown instances in the actual services themselves, because I don't need it with the other stuff. Whereas with this project, because the way they have things set up, where they have modules, sure, but then in here they, we have like loading screen has stuff, and they've got their libs separate, crafting here, but then they have modules here with a bunch of stuff. It's a lot of inconsistencies, right? And they have this scripts, which includes this one script called script, things that really annoy me. But because they already have the system set up the way that they have it set up, for me to make sure that I'm not accidentally deleting things, yes, that's where I go in. If I have to grab a script that is in there and make sure that I have it in here so that I can utilize it a lot easier, copy and paste it into my setup, like I did for Profile Store, for example. I should actually include one in here in case they decide to add something else into libs, into the server script service libs. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that as well. We just paste, and it's there. I don't have to worry about it. And that again just makes sure that anytime I go to add a folder or something, I will go ahead and add that in there, so that I don't have to worry about accidentally making a mistake, or changing anything that they have. Oh, player data. See, I broke all this out because this makes way more sense. This is also like me redoing the data manager and all that kind of stuff. I guess I need to check and see if I actually implemented any try get data matches exactly, no results found. Okay, so I don't have that in there. The template though, I could definitely update, because could use a little update with what I have here. Mostly because I like added character info just to make using that a lot easier. So really need to fix my YouTube viewer count. It's really annoying. Let's see if I can find that. Where'd that come from? Was that Streamlabs? Bear with me a second while I fix that. Viewer count. I have YouTube selected. That's not even like refreshing. Setting. That's weird. So I just turned off the Twitch one and saved, and it didn't refresh. Okay. refresh this each time. Interesting. Hmm. But it's still not showing the YouTube ones. Why? Fairly certain this is connected to my YouTube. It says YouTube right there. Account settings, YouTube, connected. Do I prefer functional programming? No. Or try to use OOP? Depends. Yeah, problems trying to strictly type meta tables. Yeah, so I mean, it's a pain in the ass, but, so OOP, everybody really goes gung-ho over OOP in Roblox for whatever reason. OOP has its uses, it has its place. There's a time and place to use object-oriented programming, and there's many other times and places where you don't want to use it. In fact, in like Project 100, I have it used for like my item system, like, because I have inheritance. I have an item class, and then I have weapons, armor, consumables, cosmetics. Like these are all, they all inherit from the item class because every weapon, every armor, every consumable, all that they're all going to share, they're all going to have a name, they're all going to have a value, they're all going to have, you know, various things that are shared across all items, right? So I want to inherit that. So I use OOP for that, but then I also use a component system for encapsulation. So I have like an attack component and a block component and a dodge component and things like that. And I can take those components and I can add them to, obviously the player character gets most of the components. They don't get like the aggro component, which is a component specific for NPCs. But then, you know, depending on the type of NPC, you know, if it's a humanoid NPC, it's probably going to be able to block or dodge, right? Depending on if it has the ability to do so. But if it's something like a boar, right, a creature, an animal, it only has the attack component, the aggro component, and a skill component, so it can use the skill like charge, right? Because the boar, it would charge a. So you can really pick and choose and customize that sort of thing. OOP for those would be additionally complicated for no reason, essentially. But I also have, go and open it. I have, let me see if I can find where I put this. Is it in? You know what? I'll just pull up Project 100. It's easier anyways. So like I have my random table selection where I do have, this is a class here, right? So I have a constructor and everything, so you can create a random table, a random weighted table, and you can get all the weights and stuff. Interesting. But yes, I mean, it's, you know, it is kind of a pain in the ass to strictly type it out, but create a type alias for it. Also, I have Roblox projects. Another one that I'm supposed to be working on here. This one, so like I have this animal AI, and this is using OOP as well. And what I did is I actually broke out the type into its own script here. And I can implement additional types from other scripts and things. And then I have like a base config, which sets up, this is basically stuff that you would put into an animal's config file. So a deer, for example, has this base config, right? That you fill in the base information for. But then there's also like an optional config that as a developer, if you want to go in and create a very custom deer, you can like set some other stuff up there. And then the animal type is a combination of those along with all of this stuff, which includes my different methods and the background values that get changed and stuff. So, do you have any videos regarding composition over inheritance? Not yet, but I do plan on doing that. So I have a plan for my advanced series to basically, first thing I want to cover is types and type checking, type annotation, type aliases and stuff, because I use it so much and I find it so useful, and it obviously helps create safe code and good code. It ends up being a situation that lets me then go into things like I want to do OOP directly after that. I'll probably do composition after that as well, because then I can then talk about the differences between the two when you want to use one or the other. I also want to do AI systems like I'm doing here. The difference between a finite state machine, a behavior tree, and a goal-oriented action planning system, which is what I'm using on this one. The positives, negatives, reasons you want to use one over the other, where you don't want to use them, right? That kind of stuff. So, but yeah. Anyways. Why is this not connecting here? That's what I want to know. Oh, that would be why. That's connected to the wrong YouTube. That's connected to my very old YouTube. Fascinating. Which means that it was working, just not in the right YouTube. Hilarious. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the Discord also, I do blog posts in there, so I go deeper. I do deeper dives into my video content in those blogs, so it's kind of a good place to see stuff as well. There we go. I got it fixed. All right. Now we can see over here. Sorry, how many people are watching? Or I can see it a lot easier too, which is nice. Much better. All right. With that being said, let's actually go and finish this up here. All right, so let's get rid of this. Get rid of that. Migrations. Okay, so we added template and migration type. Also set this to non-strict mode. Why? Just realized the music changed. Rune info. Because we don't know about that. Let's see. Alright. So that's fine. What else do we do here? I'm using Lua language server. But only because of the easier type checking. Personally, like there's a lot of things that I prefer Roblox LSP for. there's a lot of things that I prefer Luau language server for too. So it kind of just came down to, because Roblox LSP does have, I can even pull it up here. Let's see, Roblox LSP. See if I can find it. Yeah, so in the Roblox LSP GitHub page, like in their wiki, they have this thing for type checking here, and we can see that this does actually have a beta version for type checking. It's kind of more of a pain in the ass because you have to do this -- type check mode strict. And if you want to sync things up separately, you also have to include your normal strict mode up here. But then you love my mustache. Thank you. I worked very hard on, I didn't actually. It does need a trim, actually. Like, nothing bothers me more than biting into something or eating something and just having my mustache, like, covered. So I always try to trim it up just a little bit. But so yeah, they have this type checking mode built in here, but you can see that, like, this page at least hasn't been updated since 2022. So it's actually been almost 3 years now. When the actual code work was done on it, I don't know. But they even mention in the README for this, like, project doesn't support Luau static typing and never will, it says. And you should always prefer the Luau language server for that. Roblox themselves also, if you look at anything that they're doing that they involve VS Code and Rojo and stuff for, they're also using Luau language server. Or like Roblox TypeScript, I think they do as well, or something, possibly. But I know that it's got its positives and negatives. So, but again, it's just preference for the most part. But there's a lot of things where, like, if you have let me just do this real quick, and we do part.touch. That's fine. Touch ended as well. All right, connect, and then if I do a function here with my anonymous autofill, this bothers me about Luau language server, is that it uses these arbitrary values here, these magic numbers, if you will, rather than, you know, what this is actually supposed to be returning to us, which is a base part. Roblox LSP will take and do things just like Studio will, and actually give you, like, it'll say other part, right, instead of A0 in this case. So it's the biggest annoyance to me with Luau language server, but really that's like one of the only main annoyances I have with it, and therefore I end up using it over Roblox LSP more often than not now. I also find the setup of Luau language server to be not as straightforward, because you have to go in to the settings and, like, make sure that you go through them all and enable things that you actually want to do in specific ways. So I can at least copy this over. Why is that up there? That should be... If I control S, that's going to automatically do that for me. And then I can create these migration types. And I mean, I'm basically just, I'm updating this specific one here just to make sure that it's the way that I want it. So obviously the player is a player data is a type of template. Certainly one way to do it. Right, because I can turn on strict mode here. Sorry, non-strict is what we're doing for this one in particular. That works. Can head out, sleep, because it's 1:50. It is indeed. We're on the same time zone. I will be up all night though, because I slept all day, unfortunately. I only meant to take a 2-hour nap. That didn't happen, but good night, Evolution. Talk to you later. In fact, at some point, I'll have to stop and get a bite to eat as well. So, see about that. Okay, down here, they even put player there, but I can do this is once again type of template. We're going to use this more frequently, so we'll go ahead and, yep, because right here as well. Anything else? On each of these versions, they're doing this. Okay. Which is exactly the same as what I have, so I could have honestly just done this, which is cleaner. So, cool. Right, so we'll save that. We will close this. We are going to go ahead and continue our journey into what we're doing. Clean things up. Some migrations we can leave. We have this try get player profile because we were trying to decouple a lot of code from the data manager. Because there was this whole thing that they were doing. So like you're maybe I come down here and kind of draw it out. So like you have your data manager, right? And the data manager should basically have player data profiles, right? Which store, once your player loads in from your data store wrapper, basically, it should set that player's data profile in the data manager, right? And then also in here, you would want to have two other things, essentially. Events that connect, that fire off to perform a function within the data manager itself. And then any functions that set or get data. All right, so specifically only setters and getters. And that's all the data manager should do. The data manager should not actually be tying into, should not be requiring other services. So even my cleaned up version, I still had to end up tying into a bunch of other stuff, right? Here I have the profile store, but that's literally just for my player data type, because it's the way the data type is actually set up. And that gives me proper player data type stuff. But otherwise, like, I shouldn't have any of these other things, because what's actually happening, for example, with this character's shared API, right? If I come find where it's being used, you can see that it's setting this character table. Shouldn't have to do that. In fact, what I found was the only place that is being used, that data manager.characters table, is in another server module, a server-side module that is, sorry, I just realized I'm not on the right screen. So this characters table being set to this shared API, which is, like I said, you shouldn't have all of these in here. In fact, these ones and this one, like, all I should have is player data template and this profile store. That's all I need in my data store, or my data manager. All the other things should be requiring the data manager, not the other way around. So for example, like I was saying, this characters shared API. The only place this is being used is to create this characters table in the data manager. And I found that the only place that is being used is in another server-side module where they are just accessing the characters table. And I was like, you could just access this directly, just require this character shared API and get the characters info directly from that. So this could be cleaned up super easily. Another one was like the crate system down here. Again, a single use, right? It says 3, and that's because there's 2. You know, go find 2 of them right here. But a single use for each crate info in this, we're given a crate, right? And this is all part of giving an item. And it's like, okay, so this could really just set a send a bindable event, right? And fire a bindable event to the crate system shared API, which otherwise is actually accessing the data manager. Or actually, I think I finally broke out a way where the there was no, such a long script, it's doing way too much. I think I finally broke out a way where it wasn't actually, there was no cyclic redundancy, or cyclic dependency, I should say. Because like if I actually pull up in here, the data manager, this is the original version of the script here. Correct? Yeah, this is the original version of the script. Which they don't even have all of their stuff up at the top. Because if I search for, here, let me do, search for require. It's right here, index handler. They're getting from this function instead of putting that require all the way at the top. But you can also see it's underlined yellow here, and you can see cyclic dependency. Because the data manager is requiring the index handler here, but the index handler is also requiring the data manager. One of those is correct, and it's not this one. It's that the index handler should require the data manager if it wants to then be able to call, you know, whatever things it's doing, such as find on character or anything like that. So there's this whole, not only tight coupling happening, but just incorrect setup on it. So yeah, so every other module that needs to, you know, for example, get player profile should all be basically accessing the data manager, but shouldn't be the other way around, right? And they can also send events, right? Or other scripts can send events. So if you have a shop, for example, and we have so there's 2 ways to do a shop, or 2 ways to properly kind of do a shop. So the client gets displayed the information on the shop. Not go into how it gets that information, that's part of it, but we'll just talk about, they see something they want to buy, it costs 100 coins, for example. The player can see how many coins they have as well. They should be able to if you have proper UI, but let's just say they don't, doesn't really matter. None of it matters except they have clicked the button to request purchase of that item that costs 100 coins. So without a shop manager, a middleman in this case, we'll just even go directly to the data manager. The data manager should have a function to add an item to the player's inventory and to adjust their coins either up or down. And then you could have one for request purchase would be what I would call it, a function for request purchase. So you would basically go in and say, a request has come through that sends a remote event to the data manager. The data manager says, oh, this request has this item name or ID or whatever. And then actually, that's really all it takes. Is you just send the item ID that you're requesting to purchase, right? And the player, obviously, that sent it, that comes in automatically from that remote event. So then you just say, okay, we're requesting a purchase. You just compare, does the player, does their amount of coins, their current amount of coins, exceed, right? You would get the info for the item because the item's info should be stored on the server as well. Player should have no access to that. So the data manager is going to be able to check, you know, like the item table, whatever, and it's going to say, I found that item, it cost this much, and then it can compare, does the player have enough coins to do that? If they don't, it just sends a remote event back to the player to say, to the client to say, you can't afford this. And then the client would handle that however it would. Typically, you know, some sort of GUI element popping up and saying, you can't afford this, you don't have enough coins, right? Otherwise, if they can afford it, then it would move and it would call the adjust coins to remove that amount of coins from the player's coins amount. And then it would also add the item to the player's inventory, and then it would send a successful remote event back. And then again, the client would handle that by saying, hey, you have succeeded. It would update, you know, wherever they're showing their coins GUI, it would update that. And then obviously in their inventory, it would probably populate, you know, the icon for that as well. So that's how, you know, all that would work, and none of that's actually breaking anything. Now, if you have a middleman, right, let's say that you have a shop handler or something, what this middleman is going to do is basically receive the request for it, right? It's going to receive that request when they click the button to request to purchase something. It's going to then check it's going to get the player's profile from the data manager. It's going to check the items, and it's going to say, can they afford this, right? Because it's going to have that value then and do the comparison. Again, if it can't afford it, then it'll just send an event back to the client to let them know that they failed to purchase. If they can afford it, then it's going to, again, access the data manager and call the adjust coins function for the amount of coins. And then it's going to call the add item to inventory function, whatever, to add that item to their inventory. And then the shop handler would then handle sending the remote event back to the client with a successful purchase, right? And then again, the client has all of its stuff to handle the GUI updating. That is the proper structure for doing this. That is not how this game is structured, and it drives me up the wall. So, rant over. All right, anyways, okay, so I am breaking my own heart here. We're gonna basically overwrite our data and data manager that I spent 5 hours on last night because I wanted to clean it up. But after I got multiple hours into it, I had gotten like 3 hours into it and was like, man, there's so much coupling, there's so much a pain in the ass to do this. And I was thinking I'll just give up, and I was like, but it really needs to be done. In fact, the data script here is doing some really gross things for a server-side script. It is handling player GUI stuff. Many places, as a matter of fact. It's not ideal. It's not what it should be doing at all. So it's a big reason I wanted to clean it up. The other reason is because I thought once it's cleaned up, it'll be a lot easier to maintain the game. And sure enough, it would be. But the amount of time it would take me and the amount of things that it's touching, I mean, I have to go and I have to touch and adjust all of those other things, and then make sure that it's not breaking anything, because those things are touching other things, and it just became such a hassle. And I was like, I'm just going to give up on it and I'll let it be for now. I will slowly work on it another time, essentially. So that's where I'm at on that. I can get rid of this, I guess. So we have these. This is fine. These are all set up correctly. And then the potion shop. I don't think I need. So we're going to get rid of that as well. All right. And then I have cash counter animation. What did I change in here? Why do I have access to this? I don't think I need access to this, so we'll get rid of that. Do you need the cutscene system in that? So we'll just get rid of this one. Alright, I think that this is finally cleaned up. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to overwrite my dev place with the live game version. Apparently has an active team create session. Oh, yes, so it does. You're right. Hold on. I'm actively in that game right now, so close that. And then we'll retry. Just publish failed. Okay, well, that's done. Wait, okay, so save commission burn, but you're still editing. Should be able to close this now. Open the other one and it be correct. We'll see. Alright, okay, so all the things. Cool. Alright, so now we can go in and create a new branch. This will be weekly rewards. Weekly rewards. So now I can safely work on things and not break things, because that was a problem for me before. So I need to verify. I know how to verify this. I can just go here. Okay, so that is correct. That is updated. With all its grossness, yeah. Okay. Alright, so we're good there. Okay, so these, I have these set up actually already, I think. I think they still... Yeah, weekly rewards, so we have our data set up here. So that's fine. So now I need to actually reward them. I'm sorry, what is this from? This is started player scripts. Oh, because this is just doing the timer. Weekly rewards timer. I think that's actually this timer down here, right? Yeah. New weekend. Yes, okay. That's exactly what that is. Let's get it right here. Okay. So that doesn't matter. Did I guess I did remove my try get player profile. Whoops. Okay. Well, I'll get that back here then. Let me go to that repo. Commission. So I'll still have a backup of that at least. Player data. Target player profile. If you're wondering what this does, break it down. We'll walk through it. So I'm making some requirements. The only thing I'm really requiring of use is the data manager to get this profile. However, I'm using the profile store player data template to construct this player data type. Obviously to then pass along what player data actually is. I have a config and log here, so I have a prefix and whether or not debug is true or false. And that just basically determines if, you know, I want to have debug turned on, it'll print these print statements out using the log. Otherwise, this one, right, if not success, this has this true value as an argument. So that's actually going to be a warning, and we'll post the warning there. And in both cases, it uses the prefix, which is actually better if I have it square brackets, and we also need a space. Yeah. And then I'm using debug info to actually get the line number and stuff that it's actually coming from. So yeah, this will print out that it's from line 27 and all that stuff. Otherwise, and then it, you know, puts the message in there. That's what that does. And then the actual function itself that we're returning as our get player profile function takes in a player, returns the player data or nil. Right? Returns a nil if not successful. We're using a pcall wrap to get the player's profile. We could also include like a retry and timeout on this. Probably not the worst thing. I do know like the their data manager has a get player data, and it's a much more simplified version of what I have here. And they're using this in a lot of stuff, but because nil means specifically nothing. So nil isn't technically just nothing. It is specifically nothing. Now I can just return nothing, and you know that is the same exact thing. But I'm just explicitly stating there to return nil. It's the same thing. You don't have to include that though. You can obviously just include that. However, sometimes with type checking enabled, like I have strict mode on here, sometimes it does yell at you if you are, you know, if it's expecting you to return a value or nil, and you don't actually have nil in there. To explicitly state that it's returning nil, it will yell at you, but that only happens every now and then, but it's just kind of good. It's for ease of reading the code for debug. Yeah, it's for ease of reading the code, and for debugging in a way as well, but more so like I can come down here and say, okay, I'm returning nil. I can also see that I'd be returning nil there, and of course if this returns nothing, I know I'm returning nil. It's just the way I did it. I don't always do that. In fact, I usually don't unless the type checker yells at me to do that. I also, I'm in my dev place, yes. We can go ahead and serve this. And come over here and connect. Yeah. Just done some formatting on stuff for the most part, and then all of that. Cool. We'll accept that. So like if I pull up the try get here, if I in fact we've got type check here, type number cannot be converted into player, right? Because that was the other thing, is my version was, so ideally when you're doing your data manager profiles and stuff, don't use the player object itself. Like that's more data than is needed. Just use the user ID, the player user ID. But they're using the player user ID, and I had started working on converting things and didn't. So if I remove nil here, you'll see in the type checker here, even though it doesn't yell at me here, Roblox Studios type checker is being a bit more of a pain in the ass about it. So it's gonna say here that you know, so open close parentheses is basically nothing, right? That is more nothing. It's also kind of a nil version. Could not be converted into player data or nil, which is what the question mark is saying there. So by putting nil there, that silences that warning for me. So hopefully that works. Yep, you are welcome. All right, so anyways, back into here, so we can, let's go ahead and actually push this. We're gonna do, admit that, I guess I can close this. Right. Well, then I'll use the easy way and just publish this. Cool. All right, anyways, so what's a good way to determine when we've got a new week? I think we might, because I don't necessarily want to include rewarding the player through the leaderboard, although because this ideally, this module's whole purpose is ideally just to update the leaderboard itself, or just to update the store, the memory store, the data itself. And then obviously the client handles updating the board itself. Thank you for the follow. So I think we want to break it out into weekly leaderboard rewards module somewhere. I guess we could do that in the same folder here, actually. The leaderboards folder. We have the weekly rewards, which I prefer to keep my databases separate from the getter setter function database or modules. So I think we'll do that. Let's go ahead and do weekly leaderboard reward handler. Is that too much? It is too much. Let's just do weekly reward handler. Because then we can also directly get the I'm gonna need the data manager, I'm gonna need the weekly rewards, So like we could, I don't know that I need to like recreate the process of getting a new week here. I mean, this is automatically just changing the data based on when the data store name changes, because the memory store name changes, because of the memory store key will change based on when the date changes. So maybe we do need to kind of recreate this functionality to determine basically when this is happening, though. Is it bad to start off making a combat system even though you're new to scripting, know the basic terms like variables, functions, for loops, events, and stuff? A combat system is relatively complex. I would start with some simpler things that, like, you can look into what a combat system needs and maybe work on those individual components themselves and kind of figure out the nuances of that, because a combat system is basically just a combination of a lot of different stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and I have an ad break coming up in like 45 seconds for Twitch. I was trying to snooze it. I can't do that unless I go into my Twitch page, apparently. I thought that I could do it from a little notification there. Let me snooze it real quick. We've had enough of those for a little bit. This and snooze just in time. All right. So it's been snoozed for 5 minutes. All right. Anyways, yeah, combat system is just a combination of a lot of smaller subsystems, right? So like a hitbox is, there's lots of different ways to do a hitbox. So that's another thing to really, hitboxes are probably one of the main things for a combat system. To nail down like which version of a hitbox you want to do. Hitboxes for, you know, obviously hitboxes for, you know, a shooter game are obviously much different than, you know, a melee combat game. You could do actual part-on-part touching detection, which is not usually a good user experience for the player, because sometimes it feels like you should hit something but you don't, because the parts don't actually make contact. Or sometimes it looks like it makes contact, but it, you know, or sometimes it doesn't look like it makes contact, but it actually does, because the way the parts, bounding boxes maybe are handled, touch detection and all that kind of stuff. There's magnitude hitboxes, which I like a lot. Magnitude hitboxes basically just take the front of the character up to a certain distance, and when you basically perform an attack, right, it performs the animation, whatever, but it just checks, is there anything within my magnitude hitbox? Thank you for the subscription, Ranter. Appreciate that. So, you know, it basically just detects if there's any humanoid character in that hitbox in front of you, and will then do the hit detection, all that kind of stuff. There's also spawning an actual hitbox around things whenever the attack is made. And then there's also having an actual hitbox on like a weapon or on the fist or whatever. There's exploitation concerns for some of those. Typically doing a physicalized hitbox that is already on the object, right, the fist or the weapon that you're doing. You typically don't want to do that, because that's easily exploitable to have for them to increase the size of that hitbox, because typically that item is going to exist on the client side as well. So you don't usually want to do that. Magnitude hitboxes are nice because you can completely control that on the server side. You can also do the spawning hitbox option completely on the server side. There's also libraries that people have written to make hitboxes. However, I highly suggest, if you're new, try to write your own first. You know, get some sort of working thing on it so you can start to work through and figure out how to do those things, and then go and look at the library the different libraries they have that do these things, and then you can kind of look through them. As long as they're hopefully well written, with good clean code, you can at least start to grasp like, oh, okay, I see that's doing something I never would have thought of, or that's really useful. Then maybe you can just add that to your own system instead of just using their system. Because a lot of times with combat systems in particular, libraries that are for combat systems are very specific or maybe too general, and they don't necessarily plug directly into your vision of the combat system you're trying to make, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Otherwise, there's things like dodging and blocking, iframes if you want to go that route, you know, invincibility frames. Not to mention all the visual effects and stuff. Something to keep in mind with characters is like a character in a video game is typically just a capsule, or in Roblox's case, a humanoid root part. That is the actual character. Everything around it, all the different parts for the arms, the head, the leg, you know, the torso, all that kind of stuff, is really just visual and is just driven by an animation, right? And the animation is also just visual and everything too. Now you can tie into those parts and everything, but for the most part, the humanoid root part is your actual character. When you move your character, it's the humanoid root part that is moving, and that's then driving the animation through the humanoid and all that to determine what parts are there and everything. So when you kind of wrap your head around that, that can also help determine like how do I want to handle combat and things like that, because you have to typically, you know, if you're applying forces and stuff, you're going to want to apply it to the humanoid root part to then move the character. And then you can play animations on top of that and stuff. Just make sure as well that you are having a very clear server client responsibility separation. The server should not mess with animations, should not mess with visual effects. It should only be handling hitbox detection and damage, right? For the most part. You can handle replication through it by basically sending an event from the client to the server, or, you know, when, let's say that you have, say the server has detected that you have hit something, right? Rather than the server playing an effect, right, a visual effect that you've hit the thing, it would fire all clients with the information of the location that the effect, right, the location that the hit happened, for example. So then each client is then responsible for spawning and playing that particle effect or whatever in that location, so that they all get to see, you know, what's happening. But visual effects play much better on the client. The server is not designed to actually handle the responsibility of visual effects. Same thing with animations. If there's an animation you want to play, you know, like a twitching animation for the hit character, the character that got hit, you want to actually send the event to that hit character and have that hit character's animator, not the humanoid, the animator, play the animation. The reason why is the animator will handle the replication for you automatically. So you then don't have to replicate. You don't have to fire that to all players to say, play this animation on that character. So that's kind of nice. But anyway, so yeah, combat systems, pretty complex. Like I said, I would focus down, you know, find out what each of those systems need and focus down on one of those systems at a time and try to get that to work, doing it that way, because it can get complicated and complex, and take a while to get things done. So that's that. Anyways, so determining, right, we really just need this start of week date, and then we can compare it to the current week, or the current date, I guess. Should we try using an LLM for this? See if it can get it right. I can probably guarantee I'm probably not going to use the code that it generates, but I would be curious to see some things for it. I've been actually wanting to look at Claude v4, because I have yet to actually look at Claude v4 here. Oops, sorry, yeah, you already signed me in. All right. Let's do... That's the button, okay. Hello, Night Owl. Yeah, I know it's late. It's 2:30 in the morning for him. All right, so we're on Claude v4. Claude v3 in particular, I noticed, was extremely terrible at handling Roblox luau code. It does not do very well with it. I haven't tried v4, as I mentioned. So far, the best one for luau that I have found that has a better understanding, at least, of writing good clean code for it and understanding like how to do certain things, was Gemini 2.5 Pro. So if this doesn't do a good job, we'll see if Gemini can do it. ChatGPT is, yeah, it's okay. All right, so I have a Roblox game that includes a weekly leaderboard for number of rolls made. I want to reward the top players. I reward the players. Hey, thank you for the subscription, Melon Muncher. Appreciate that. For being on the board and based on their rank on the board, just to be clear about that. I have a let's feed it our this weekly rewards handler. Give me a sec, guys. Thank you for the subscription, Okira. Appreciate that very much. Thanks for the information. Thank you for the advice. So you think I should start off with something like an M1 system because it's simpler? Yeah, for sure. 100% deserves a sub. Appreciate that. Taking a look back. Yeah, absolutely. It's there's a lot of things that you'll use in a combat system that are also used on their own and other things that you could probably look into as well and develop out one of those sorts of systems. It's also a good idea to, if you just kind of have the fundamentals of coding down, work on something that will utilize all those fundamentals really well and get the practice in on that, because then when you do start doing the combat system, you're going to have a much easier time not just wrapping your head around like how they work, but when you think, okay, I need this thing to happen, how can I make that happen? And you just go, okay, well, I know that I could use, a for loop here. I know that I can, fire an event off or call a module's function, or whatever it is. So okay, so I'm basically going to give this our skeleton, as it were. So I have a weekly rewards table for the rewards of, let's see, at each rank. We'll do 3 backticks and Lua, so it knows that it's Lua. It's not actually Lua though, it's Luau. I need the weekly rewards table here. So paste that in. And then don't know that. Okay, I was like, I don't know how to get out of that. And then we can get the player's data profile using data manager. Was it .bit? No, I gotta pull up the data manager as well. Get player data. That's what it is. Data manager, get player data. Fascinating, man. This is so weird. Okay, yeah, there's just so many inconsistencies in this anyways. As well as the following function from data manager. Up here now, and then alright, so the week resets on Sunday at 0000 UTC, I believe. Let's see. Good morning, Digital Nova. Welcome. This one, okay. Start of week is... What's the date? Weekday. Sunday. Fairly certain that that format is for that. Let's check real quick. Yeah, UTC. Okay. I don't want you, Copilot. Stop it. Alright, anyways, so... Which is... when... which is when the player should be... Players should be rewarded. As you'll see in the rewards table, we have a unique set of rewards for first rank, second rank, third rank. Not able to type apparently. Weird. A unique. Then ranks 4 through 50 get the same thing. Write a script to handle this. Pretty straightforward. I'm gonna copy that. We'll paste that in here, or we'll let it do its thing. Let's see what it does. We'll find out. Thanks a lot for the information. Thank you for the advice. But I think you should start off with something like an M1 system because it's simpler. Oh no, I already read that. Why am I reading it again? Down further. Here we are. Really tired. Bet you are more. I'm actually not tired because so I was up all night last night, and then at 9 a.m. I went to go take like a 2-hour nap, and then was gonna just have an energy drink to push me through the rest of the day, and then go to sleep at like a normal time. But then I slept through my alarm on that 2-hour nap and ended up sleeping 7 hours. So basically a full night's sleep, but in the middle of the day. So I'm pretty well rested. I also did have an energy drink at the beginning of the stream, so that's empty now, mostly. Now it's empty. So I'll be up. I'll be on for a while. I will probably take a break from coding to grab some food at some point, since I didn't have lunch technically because I slept through that. So my lunch was my dinner, so I'll technically need to have dinner, which will be in the middle of the night. It's crazy. Yes, I am using Rojo. Alright, what do we got here? I'll create a script handle, blah blah blah. Create a comprehensive weekly leaderboard, handles automatic weekly resets. Leaderboard retrieval gets the weekly leaderboard. Need to implement the actual leaderboard logic. I already have that, don't worry about that. Reward distribution distributes rewards based on player rankings according to your weekly rewards table. Use data store to track the last reset time to prevent duplicate resets. Use data store to track the last reset time to prevent duplicate reset. Okay. Cross server coordination uses messaging service for multi-server reset coordination. Proper error handling with pcall. I mean, we're using profile store, so they're session locked, so we might not really need that. It might be a little overkill. Leaderboard logic, you need to replace placeholder leaderboard logic. Yeah, I already know. I didn't give that part to you. Weekly stats reset. The reset weekly stats function needs to be implemented based on your data structure. You need to reset weekly roles. Yeah, that's all part of the same thing. Initialization. Call it in your main server script to start the system, and then testing. Use force reset for manual testing. Usage example. Handles the reward types, doing exactly what I told you. Okay. See if this is any good or not. Are you asking if this is P100? No. This is for Brainrot RNG. Before I joined the group, it was P10. When I joined, it turned to P 100 million. Nice. Digital Nova, are you on both Twitch and YouTube? Nice. Yeah, appreciate that. Inflate my numbers for a middle of the night stream. Alright, okay. I like that it automatically went to strict mode. Did I do that? Let's see. Okay, I didn't actually, because I gave it this like little, actually I didn't even give it this this little template here. But I do want to enable strict mode though, so we'll do that. Okay, let's see what it did here. Player service, run service, data store service, messaging service. Again, I don't know if I'm actually gonna need messaging service. We'll see. We have the data manager, weekly rewards. Correct. In fact, mine are backwards. Because I like them alphabetical as well. Alright, weekly reward handler. We have data store for tracking last reset time. Just weekly reset tracker. Okay. I'll have to see how and why it's implementing that. I'm still not sure. Reset timestamp key is like last weekly reset. Key for storing the last weekly timestamp. Maybe I need to eat before I do this, but we'll see. Calculate the next Sunday, get next Sunday, so we have current time, UTC time. So this is actually very similar to what we did in our weekly leaderboard. In fact, it's getting days till, yep, 7 minus that. Modulo 7. I actually like that it's doing that. That's that is a clever way to do that. Oh, what was that? Nice, Cloud. That's actually a pretty cool feature. Huh. Anyways, if days till Sunday is 0 and the hour is 00. Well, if it's Sunday but not exactly that, wait for the next Sunday. Calculate the next Sunday. Hold on. This is days until next Sunday. Calculates the next Sunday, it returns the next Sunday. The day plus days till Sunday. Okay. All right, so then we have get weekly leaderboard. It's placeholder, of course. Yeah, it's, I mean, I'll get the leaderboard. That's not a problem. Get reward for rank. Find the appropriate reward entry for the given rank. The weekly rewards. So for each reward entry in weekly rewards, min rank and max rank. That works. If rank is greater than or equal to min rank, I don't like that it uses these symbols. Like, I've never liked them. I get they're fancy, but they're not consistent. So it bothers me. But anyways, at least I know what they are. All right, if rank is greater than or equal to min rank and rank is less than or equal to max rank, so if they're in rank, then we return reward entry. Else we return nil. Okay, that works. And then give rewards to a player. So we have give rewards to player. I mean, we could... They're really breaking each function down, I was going to say, because you could actually just give the reward to the player here. I guess this is a fine way of breaking this down, though, actually. So give rewards to player, and then we have player, the reward entry, etc. For each crate reward in our crates, we are giving the item with the crate and the amounts. That's perfect. So far, there's a lot of good stuff here. And then give cash to that. Because our data manager, give item. Yeah, if item name is cash as a string, that works. Okay, reset weekly stats. You'll need to implement this based on your data structure. For each player in players. But this is only going to be for active players. I don't need to do that. I'm not actually tracking weekly rolls. The leaderboard doesn't manipulate player data at all. It only reads. It just says how many total rolls do you have, and then it does the math to calculate how many weekly rolls they have there. So I don't need this at all. This isn't a thing. What else we got here? Handle the weekly reset and reward distribution. So we've got a P call. We're getting the leaderboard. Distribute the rewards for each entry in the leaderboard if the entry rank is less than or equal to 50. Only reward the top 50 players, which would be set automatically anyways. In fact, because this creates another essentially hard-coded number that I would have to, if we decide to increase the leaderboard to 100 or decrease it to the top 10 or something, right? I would have to not only change it on the leaderboards themselves, but I would have to come in here and change it too. It is located in the same, within the same folder for the leaderboards. I mean, that's not that bad, but still kind of a pain in the ass. Maintainability and whatnot. What I'll probably do is I would put a config up at the top to handle that instead of hard coding 50 in there, because it's not always guaranteed to be 50. I might change that. Why Claude not GPT 4.0? It's way better than the chat limit on Claude. It's way too restrictive. Multiple reasons. Number one, GPT is actually the worst at Luau. Or is bad at Luau. Claude was bad. Claude 3 was very bad. I hadn't tried 4. This is the first time I've tried Claude 4, which is supposed to be like amazing. But a lot of times, the fact is, a lot of these models are not trained as much, or barely at all. There's just not as much data out there for Roblox Luau code. There's a little bit for Lua, right? Lua is pretty popular, specifically Roblox. Luau, not as much, so most of them aren't really all that great compared to if you're using it for something like Python, right? Python's probably the most used language, JavaScript as well, right? Probably the two most used languages in the world, so it's going to be amazing at those, right? Something like C++, even Rust, Go, like all these other languages that have a lot more like open source stuff for them to train their data on, or you know, wherever they're going to train their data. So none of them are really good, and I typically don't do this, but I just wanted to see, like, again, I hadn't tried Claude 4 yet, and I do every now and then just go in and push them and say, hey, can you do this thing, and see if it's gotten any better. So far, like, I like everything this is doing. I can't guarantee that ChatGPT is going to do any better, and in fact, in my testing before, Gemini 2.5 Pro is actually the best that I've used on these. I don't really care about the restrictions right now because I don't use this very often, and I can use it this one time here just to see if it can do it. And then I'm going to try and see if Gemini does any better. I'm going to try and see if ChatGPT does any better. I doubt it is, but again, just because this has actually come out with pretty decent code, I might not even care as much. So the reward entry, if reward entry, then give rewards to player. Just printing, send a message to the player about the rewards. Yeah, we will need to do that as well. Reset the weekly stats. Weekly reset data store, set async, reset timestamp key OS time. So where are we checking against this though? We're setting the timestamp there, but where are we actually... Where is it actually using it? Check for weekly reset. I just had to go a little further. All right. Well, where is it calling check for weekly reset? Well, I guess wherever we're calling handle weekly reset, right? Let's come down and see if we can find that. Here's handle weekly reset. Set up cross server. Okay, so the weekly, okay, the innet here. First thing we do is check for weekly reset. Immediately on startup. Do that on heartbeat. We're waiting 60 seconds. This is inefficient. We don't need to use heartbeat. Heartbeat's gonna run every frame. It's yielding for a whole minute, so why tie into something that we don't need to hold every single frame? This is a game that exists, actually. It's Brainrot RNG. It's a game that I recently joined last week, I think it was. Early last week, they made me part owner. And to script it, so, you know. It's kind of a good deal. I mean, it's already making money. I just had to come in and take over their scripting for them, which, unfortunately, like, their scripting wasn't great, but fortunately it wasn't terrible either. If it was terrible, I would probably say, hey guys, sorry, but either you're gonna have to let me go through and take the time to rewrite your entire game, or otherwise the maintainability of it's not good. Right now, the maintainability of the game is already a little iffy, just because of the way that things are tightly coupled and just not great, but I can at least work with it though for now until I get the time to go in and fix things. Spent 5 hours fixing some things last night and then decided to give up on it because too tightly coupled. It's rough. All right, so this isn't bad. There's some things that I would change. And then obviously there's some things that we do need to go in and work on, but let's do, all right, let's go and do chat GPT and we'll see. We'll see what GPT can do for us here. It's fast, that's for sure. It's like we got an ad coming up in, we have an ad break actually going on in Twitch there. Except for subscribers. Alright, so high level overview, trees weekly leaderboard, iterates through the entries, matches each rank, gives each reward. Alright. Let's see. So we have some types of crate rewards, potion, reward entry. Sure. Get reward entry for rank. So I'll automatically, like, we're using memory store service, which is good. Wait, we don't need to use memory store service. This is probably because I didn't actually give it the weekly leaderboard stuff, which is using memory store service. But then I have a leaderboard handler that has the more persistent data saving on it, so. Anyways, okay, so for each entry in the weekly rewards, min rank, max rank, yeah, if the rank is, okay, greater than or equal to or less than, you return the entry. Okay, so that's very much the same thing. Reward the player, so using a P call, get name from user ID async. Could not resolve username. Make sure my prompts are ultra specific and don't expect the best code. Yeah, I'm a 20-year coding veteran. I know how to be specific about things. I also know that you aren't gonna get jack shit out of a LLM if you don't know what you're doing. That's why AI is not gonna completely take over everybody's jobs, because it's fine. If you want to look at the prompt I gave, and then I just copied and pasted the same prompt into here to see. Why are we returning? Why are we getting the name of? Like, we don't need to pass in the user ID. We have access to the player object itself, but, or no. Let's see, data manager's profile, getter function. Aha. So yeah, it returns profile.data, not. How are we, forget, how are we saving the, well, also, again, because it didn't have access to this, so it didn't know that, it doesn't know, like, what I already have. Anyways, what else we got here? Profile loaded as false, if not player success profile is a P call to get the, so that's, what is this? Load profile by user ID is not a, that's not a function in the data manager. I specifically gave you the function in the data manager, get player data. Oh, GPT messing up already. What else do we have here? Player's online, but profile is not loaded. Okay, sure. Reward entries, get the reward entry based on their rank. We're getting their rank from just calling it as an argument here. Give crates, give potions. Okay, so that's pretty much the same there for the most part. If profile is loaded, then unload profile by user ID. What is that? It's just hallucinating functions. Using heartbeat to constantly get UTC time and check the weekday. Is this wow, yeah, this is just constantly checking if it is a very specific end of the week time every frame. How inoptimized is that? That's pretty gross. Okay, so GPT, you failed. Let's go to Gemini. Same prompts. Thanks, Gemini. And I have 2.5 Pro. I have a business account, so I get a little extra benefit with Gemini as well. Basically I have unlimited usage on it, which is nice. Also does the canvas thing like Cloud does. Okay, I have to wait for it to finish, which does take a little while longer. GPT is obviously a little faster, or a lot faster, but you could see the crap it came up with though. Also, they didn't like, there used to be an option to choose your GPT version, and now it's either premium or non-premium, apparently. Probably if you have premium, you can select between different versions, or maybe if you're using it in Cursor or something like that. Let's see, Luau script, blah, blah, blah. See, it automatically knows it's Luau, just because I mentioned Roblox. Very good. Create a script to handle weekly rewards, structure, time-based trigger, prevents duplicates, uses data store to save a timestamp. So this is very similar to Claude, actually. Reward distribution, when it's time, script gets a rank for each player, finds correct stuff here. So this is for an existing game called Brainrot RNG. They wanted me to create some weekly rewards for the weekly leaderboard that we have. Need to place this script, insert scripts reverse. It even tells you like where to put stuff. Gemini holding hands when it needs to. Okay, let's see. Strict mode, automatically, again, better than what GPT was doing. We have a multi-line comment at the top to tell us what the script is doing. That's kind of nice. Author Gemini. Nice. Yeah, so the game was already generating, it had a pretty good CCU, it was already making pretty good money. And they gave me 25% ownership, so it's kind of hard to say no to that for a trendy game that's already making money and was doing pretty well in the algorithm. They spent a couple weeks not updating and they lost some players, and then we like last minute pushed out an update on Sunday, and it was it's had some issues, but mostly just for like the top players. So it is what it is. Yeah, it was an insane amount, but it was kind of like I mean, because I have a lot of experience and knowledge with game development in general, game design even. And there's a whole thing with me because I have a 4.5-month-old baby, so. Oh. Did my stream stop on Twitch? What happened there? Is YouTube still going? YouTube's going fine. Interesting, Twitch. Alright. Anyways, but I have actually he's almost 5 months old now. 5-month-old baby that I have to support my family. So it's like any time that I spend doing anything like this, I have to actually justify it. I have to be able to justify the pay, right? So that was a big part of it. It was like, if you want me to spend and devote time on it, it has to be that. So I have never reached my limit on Gemini 2.5 Pro, but again, I have a, I don't think it's an enterprise workspace account. Let me check real quick. Hold on. Admin console. Where are you, admin? There you are. I have Workspace Business Plus is what I have for my business for Distracted Games, which is actually a game development company. I also have a DBA, or had a DBA, for precision coding, where I was doing software development for that over 2023 and last year, good portion of last year. And now I've just kind of, my time has been taken up with baby and doing game development, so with Roblox in particular, and teaching. I also teach online. I teach coding, I teach computer science, I teach Roblox scripting as well. Did I get it off of a creator or job forum? No, actually, so the main project that I'm a part of is Project 100, and it's a sort of online inspired MMO in Roblox that we're making. And it's got a pretty big following. I'm the lead developer on that, and I had a few other developers come in and do commissions and work with us and stuff, and one of them happens to be part owner of this game, this Brainrot RNG, and he commissioned me for another one of his games, a hunting game that I really need to get to work on, because that commission's like 2 months past due now. But along with that, he reached out to me and said, hey, we're also doing this game. Their scripter for this game is going into the military, gonna leave for military service, so they needed a replacement scripter, and I was at the top of their list. So that's it. What's up? Atish? Atish? Let's see. All right, so what is Gemini? What did Gemini come up with here for us? So server script service, data store service, player, sure. Data manager and leaderboard. It is not getting the weekly rewards module, which is fascinating. This recreated the table in here. Okay, let's just shrink that down and ignore that part of it at least. So far, Claude's actually... Well, Claude's not flawless on theirs yet either, so we'll see though. Second one. Now I don't remember how I said it the second time. Atish? Atish? I don't remember. Anyways, so reward data store, getting a data store for weekly reward data. Last reward key, okay. Reward logic. Wow, that is some excessive like sectioning right there. It's also, I both like and dislike that it uses what is it, Moonwave? Is it? My brain is blanking on the style of commenting functions where you give them the parameter and the return value and everything, but it is what it is. Moon sign? Moon something. This will tell me. If I just type this. Comment. Here we are. Moon comment perimeter. No. Stop thinking I'm saying command, Google. Stupid. This is not. Was it Rojo that I was thinking of? No, Luau language server. Or Roblox LSP. Yeah, it's Edge. I'm a weird person. Like, I like changing things frequently, and I will hop from browser to browser every now and then just to change things up. There were some features that I liked in Edge that I've been using it probably longer than I normally would have otherwise. Otherwise, it's time to probably switch back to Opera, honestly. Alright, so... maybe it's not in this. Hold on. This is gonna bother me, so I'm going on like a journey right now to find the name of this, because it's killing me. Let's see, features. It has module and auto import on Roblox LSP too. I didn't know that. Nice, nice. Could have sworn that it was gonna be in one of these, but it's not. Oh, this is Roblox LSP. I'm looking at the same one. I'm an idiot. Luau language server. It's probably gonna have it in here, right? Nightly builds, general, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah, blah 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 blah, blah blah. Just looking at the README here real quick. Configuration, supported features. Moonwave style, there it is. Yeah, it has moon something. Alright. You know the basics, you want to know how to manage all the files and all. Have an idea of controllers and all server-side logic and client-side logic and web. Help this QL guy. Some of my favorite browsers, personally like Zen. Opera GX is probably my favorite one that I've used. There's a lot of nice features on it, and it's pretty. It's nice and customizable as well, which is kind of cool. Like, I will say, like, I kind of like having an LLM built into the browser as well. But it gets in the way a lot of the times too. It's kind of the same reason, like in VS Code, I disable a lot of the AI features in VS Code because it just gets in the way for me. So, yeah. I mean, honestly, if Chrome weren't such a resource hog, and such a performance nightmare, it's hard to beat Chrome's actual performance as a browser. Unless you're concerned about privacy, of course, then there's Firefox for that. Brave, I enjoyed Brave for a little while, Brave browser. Otherwise, I don't know. It's a flavor of the week thing for me sometimes. Again, I've used Edge. I feel like I've used Edge more for a longer period of time than otherwise. And that's the thing too, is like, it's, for a browser to be really useful for me, it has to have a phone application too, right? I have to be able to also access it on my phone so that I can sync things up, because oftentimes if I'm looking at something on my phone, you know, I want to be able to come in here and go to history, and I can pull up history from other devices, right? And I can just go, I was reading that article, or I saw this thing that I want to purchase or whatever. I can, you know, but I wanted to do it on here, so yeah, Brave is. a pretty big resource hog, but as a, I guess as a search engine though, I like Brave. Brave also had pretty decent, a pretty decent phone app, if I recall. It's been a while since I've used it though, so I don't know, take that one with a grain of salt. Like I said, I think Opera is doing probably the best work out of all the browsers right now. Again, Edge being Chromium based, you get a lot of the benefits of Chrome. And unfortunately, some of the junk of Microsoft, but with a little finagling of the settings and whatnot, it's really a pretty decent browser. It's come a long way, that's for sure. Alright, what are we doing with a reward logic? Now that we know that this is a Moonwave style comment. It's just killing me. Alright, we have get reward for rank, which does the things that we expect it to do, that all the others have done the same exact function there. We have distribute the reward, or we are printing a print debug statement here. I hate that, but it is what it is, I guess. Give cache, we're using that correctly, and then we're printing debug statements. It's gross. Process weekly rewards is assuming distribute rewards with the reward entry based on the leaderboard. Getting, okay, so this is getting players that are actively in the game, which is understandable now that I think about it, because the profile isn't going to be able to be gotten unless they're in the game, because the data manager is only going to have profiles for players in the game. I didn't think about that part. So we'll actually have to tie into the data store from the profile store. I mean, it's only happening once a week, so that's not that big a deal. It's not like it's going to be a resource hog or anything. The problem is like we have to, no, what am I thinking? I have, okay, because I have persistent data from, let's go and take a look at this. I can, you know what, let's not get distracted. Yes, the name is fitting for me sometimes, but let's not get distracted. Let's actually look and see if this is even handling the other things well or not, or if we're going with Claude. Because honestly, like, I could actually take most of this code and use it and just be happy with it. Obviously, there's things I need to change, but that would be the same regardless, I'm sure. But you know, maybe this is doing some things better. I don't know. We'll see. All right, so need a function in your leaderboard module. Get the player's rank. Get player rank with your actual function name. So, okay, so it is even telling me create this module, not just imagining, you know, hallucinating a, or not the module, a method. Not just hallucinating a method. Although, why does this need to be a method instead of just a function? I don't need the leaderboard self object for this. I hate that distinction. Anyways, warn that we fail to get the rank, blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, if rank and rank is greater than 0, then we're rewarding them with rank. If reward entry... So see, this should probably be less than... Well, no, because this is understanding that I'm probably only storing the proper amount of players, which is correct. So that works fine. And also means I don't have to change anything in this script to keep up with or maintain if we do decide to change the amount of players on the leaderboard. Reward entry, blah, blah, blah. And then we're spawning a new thread for our distribute rewards. Very nice. Actually like that. Use coroutine to prevent a single player's reward distribution from holding up the entire loop if there are any delays. That's good, especially for 50 players. That could take a little while. Time check in main loop. Well, it's okay, because I also, again, we would have to place something, we'd have to put something in place to handle players that are offline. And we could create a function basically that if the player is not offline, we store, we could have a flag of either they have been rewarded for the week or they haven't been rewarded for the week. Could also just say, hey, if the player, because I'm thinking if the player doesn't log in for 3 weeks, but they happen to somehow be at the top of the weekly board, that's impossible. What am I thinking? Because the weekly leaderboard is going to reset each week. Okay, so if a player finishes number 1, but they don't log in for the next week, like they don't log in when the rewards is happening, they don't log in for like 3 weeks, we need to be able to store that they won that, you know, they won the rewards that they won for that week. And retroactively reward them when they join the game. So I'm going to have to store that information probably in the persistent leaderboard info. But the persistent leaderboard info is only going to be storing the top 50 players all time and the top 50 players of the current week. So if they're not in that list of either of those lists, I need to account for that, which means I would actually need to use a data store here. Reward data store sounds fine. So in addition to their reward data, I need to include a has been rewarded or has not been rewarded. So if they're in, obviously if they're in the game, they will get rewarded. If they're not in the game, but they should be rewarded, I need to capture the reward for them so that when they do join the game, I can have a player added event in here so that when they do join the game that they will retroactively get rewarded whatever they earned. That makes sense. In fact, I'm going to go and write that as a to-do in here. Let's do multi-line, make it easier for myself. Just writing up here for it. To-do, so capture if a player was rewarded, they were in the game time, the rewards were handed out. Oh, come on, fingers. If they were not rewarded, dash the rewards that player and use a player added event to reward them once they rejoin. Which will mark that reward week as rewarded to prevent duplicates. Yeah, just duplicate rewards. Okay, that works. Anyways, okay, so back to what we're doing here then. Success, blah, blah. Rewarding. Okay, so time check in main loop. Let's check here. Last reward timestamp is reward data store get async. Okay, and then here we're getting the now UTC, creating the date table UTC, getting the date. Calculate the start of the current week, Sunday at 0 UTC. Sunday is weekday 1. Yeah, go back weekday -1 days. I think this is actually how I'm handling mine more specifically. Actually kind of like the, I don't know why I hadn't thought about it. I used to use modulo all the time, but this is actually kind of a nice, elegant way of handling some of this too. But anyways, set the time to midnight, okay, and then that's the start of week timestamp. If we have never given rewards, or if the last reward was given before the start of this week, it's time to give rewards. The last reward was given before the start of this week. It's time to give rewards. So if last reward timestamp or last reward timestamp is less than that, or if not, okay. Then print new reward cycle detected. It's time to distribute weekly rewards. We are process weekly rewards. After distributing, say the current timestamp to the data store to prevent redistribution. We have our set async for the last rewards with our current timestamp. If not success, blah blah blah. And the main loop is, yeah, so they're using a task.wait. Every few hours. What is 3600 seconds? My brain should be able to do that, but 60 minutes every hour. Wow, yeah, I knew that. Idiot, Jesus. Alright, so every hour that's then checking, which makes sense because we only need to check it on the hour, every hour. And again, it's not using heartbeat because we don't need to check every frame, so heartbeat is just overkill for that. Okay. So I don't know, there's maybe a combination of this and this to use. But we're gonna get that after I eat, because I'm getting hungry and I need to eat like my dinner essentially. It's 3:30 in the morning here. I think I ate actual dinner or my lunch at 6, I think it was. So it's been 9.5 hours since I've eaten. And I've had an energy drink, so yeah, I need to take a break and eat, so I will be back on. I mean, I could go get food, come back, and I don't know, we could react to a video or something, maybe. I don't know. Not set up for that. Also, at some point, maybe to give my brain a little bit of a break as well. My mustache is out of control today. I would love to play some Avowed, so might do that because I'm kind of enjoying that game. Yeah, I'm gonna, I guess I will hop off and then I will hop back on then. That's probably just the better way to handle this, instead of you guys sitting here on a BRB screen for however long. So, you know, this screen right here. So I will be right back, but not right back, because it's probably going to be like an hour. I have to make something quietly while the baby is sleeping, and then eat that something. I don't know what I'm going to have yet. That's also a thing. Alright, well anyways, thanks for watching for now. If you are back around still in whenever I come back, I'll see you then.